Burkina Faso is making history. A massive irrigation canal, the longest in Africa, is being built without loans from the IMF, without USAID, and without European oversight. No foreign consultants, no Western strings attached. This is a bold statement of sovereignty and defiance, led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The project is designed to bring water to thousands of farms, produce over 50,000 tons of food, create jobs, and end dependency on foreign aid. In just 8 months, this canal is set to transform Burkina Faso's fight against hunger into a fight for true independence. The story begins with a question that almost sounds unbelievable. How is it possible that in one of the world's poorest nations, a country so often painted by outsiders as dependent on aid, a project is underway to construct the longest irrigation canal in Africa, and to do it without a single cent from the West, without the oversight of international lenders, and without the so-called experts of foreign development agencies? At first, it sounds like a fantasy, but it is not. It is real, and it is shaking the foundations of what the world thought it knew about Africa, about power, and about independence. For decades, when people talked about Africa's infrastructure, the conversation was tied to outside forces, dams built by loans from the World Bank, highways designed with European consultants, power plants owned by Chinese contractors, irrigation systems funded with strings attached. The assumption was that Africa could not build without help, that no project of scale could exist without foreign expertise, foreign engineers, and foreign financiers. Burkina Faso is proving that assumption wrong, and it is doing so in the most dramatic way possible, by turning water, the essence of life itself, into the weapon of independence. The canal under construction is not just about agriculture or irrigation. It is about sovereignty. It is about showing that a nation long ignored, long underestimated, can dream on its own terms and execute with its own hands. Water has always been the story of survival in the Sahel. Rainfall is scarce, droughts are common, and hunger has been weaponized by those who provide aid only on their own conditions. To control water is to control food. To control food is to control destiny. And for too long, destiny was outsourced. This canal represents a rejection of that old order. The project did not begin with speeches from foreign consultants or billion-dollar loans signed in distant capitals. It began with a dam, a local dam, a simple structure that sparked an idea. What if that water could be carried farther? What if it could be extended across villages, across fields, to feed the soil and in turn feed the people? The answer was bold: build a canal, not just any canal, but the largest in West Africa, and build it without waiting for permission, without bowing to global lenders, and without mortgaging the nation's future for the next 50 years in debt. The challenge is enormous. 8 months. That was the deadline set, not by outside contractors, but by local engineers and local workers. 8 months to carve, to pour, to dig, and to assemble something that the world said could not be done without the West. And yet, every passing week proves that it is being done. Thousands of workers, farmers, students, young men and women who in another life might have looked for jobs abroad are employed on site. The sound of machines mixes with the rhythm of human hands, laying brick and concrete. This is not just labor. It is nation building. The urgency is clear. Burkina Faso imports much of its food, a contradiction for a country with so much fertile land. Dependency on imports and aid has been a cycle for decades, one that weakens sovereignty. A bad harvest, a drought, or a block shipment can create famine-like conditions. The canal is designed to break the cycle. By irrigating tens of thousands of hectares, it promises to produce over 50,000 tons of additional grain, maize, sorghum, and other crops. That number is not abstract. 50,000 tons means fewer children go to bed hungry. It means markets full of local produce instead of overpriced imports. It means security against drought, independence from charity, and dignity for a people tired of being told they cannot do it alone. But why now? Why is water suddenly at the center of Burkina Faso's fight for independence? The answer lies in geopolitics as much as in agriculture. The world today is split between those who hold power through finance and those who resist. Loans, grants, and development packages are rarely neutral. They come with demands. Liberalize your economy, open your markets, privatize your utilities, adopt policies written thousands of miles away. These conditions strip nations of control over their own future. To reject them is risky, but to accept them is to accept permanent dependency. Burkina Faso has chosen to reject them. The Canal is a symbol of that rejection. As one African proverb says, he who controls the water controls the land, and he who controls the land controls the people. For years, that control was exercised by outsiders. The dam project of the past, the irrigation systems designed abroad, all carry the fingerprints of external masters. This canal carries only the fingerprints of Burkinabe hands. And that changes everything. The world is watching closely. Western aid organizations are stunned, not only because they were excluded, but because the project is progressing. Without IMF loans, without USAID oversight, without EU consultants, something is rising from the soil. If it succeeds, it will send a message far beyond Burkina Faso. It will tell other African nations that they too can build, they too can defy, they too can take control of the very elements that define survival. It is not only a canal, it is a blueprint. When we look at the modern history of development in Africa, one recurring theme emerges again and again: dependence. Not dependence as a natural state of being, but dependence as a carefully designed outcome of global systems that insist Africa cannot stand on its own without external guidance, foreign money, and imported expertise. For decades, large infrastructure projects across the continent were never simply African projects. They came attached with conditions, consultants flown in from abroad, feasibility studies written in foreign languages, and contracts that seemed to give away more sovereignty than they built capacity. Roads, dams, power stations, ports, each was a symbol of progress, but often progress that came at the price of deeper entanglement in debts and external control. But something has shifted. In Burkina Faso, there's a new defiance, a new determination that says, we will build for ourselves with our own hands and by our own means. This is not mere rhetoric. It is a philosophy that is shaping the largest irrigation canal project in the nation's history. To understand the weight of this moment, one has to see the broader context. Water has always been the silent struggle of the Sahel region. Rainfall is irregular, droughts are severe, and climate change only deepens the unpredictability. In such conditions, agriculture becomes a gamble and food security a question of survival. For too long, external donors framed themselves as saviors, offering aid during crises, promising resilience through programs funded and designed far away from the fields they were meant to support. And yet, aid never solved the structural problem: lack of control over water. When a country cannot decide how to irrigate its own land, it cannot decide how to feed its own people. Dependency on rain, dependency on food imports, dependency on handouts, this cycle became a quiet chain that bound nations like Burkina Faso to the global aid system. So when a decision was made to launch the construction of one of Africa's longest irrigation canals without foreign involvement, it was more than just a project announcement. It was a declaration of sovereignty. Consider what this means in practical terms. Building such a canal requires engineering expertise, heavy machinery, skilled labor, logistics, and coordination on a massive scale. Traditionally, such a project would be pitched to international lenders. An army of consultants would descend, feasibility studies would stretch for years, loan agreements would be signed with dozens of conditions, and eventually, after perhaps a decade of bureaucracy, construction might begin. Instead, Burkina Faso has chosen to bypass that script entirely. The government is not asking for permission, not waiting for aid packages, and not accepting the narrative that development must be rented from abroad. The decision is clear. The people themselves will plan it, dig it, build it, and own it. This radical departure speaks to a deeper philosophy: the belief that freedom is inseparable from self-reliance. For decades, independence in Africa has been measured in political terms: raising a flag, electing a parliament, drafting a constitution. But in the 21st century, a new form of independence is being defined. It is not enough to govern politically if the lifelines of food, water, and energy are dictated externally. True independence demands control over the fundamentals of life. And in a land where agriculture is the backbone of survival, controlling water is not simply an economic decision. It is a political, cultural, and existential one. The canal is not only about water, it is about dignity. It is about saying that Burkinabe engineers are capable of designing structures to global standards. It is about showing that local construction companies, with enough determination and support, can carry out projects that rival those financed by global lenders. It is about creating jobs not for imported contractors, but for local men and women whose sweat and labor will literally shape the future of their communities. Each trench dug, each concrete slab laid, each meter canal lined is more than infrastructure. It is a testimony of ownership. This project also challenges a long-standing narrative. The narrative that Africa is rich in resources but poor in ability, that the continent can supply raw materials but must rely on external expertise for transformation. For decades, the world has comfortably consumed this story as it justifies the cycle of dependence. But here, Burkina Faso is proving the opposite. It is not lack of ability, but lack of opportunity and trust in local capacity that has held Africa back. By rejecting the external model, this project forces a new conversation. Perhaps what Africa has needed all along is not more aid, but more faith in itself. The speed of the project is another striking feature. A deadline of 8 months has been set for what could easily stretch into years under traditional models. Why such urgency? Because this is more than infrastructure. It is a statement of principle. Delay is a tool of control. Endless waiting, bureaucratic red tape. Stalled projects, these have been the hallmarks of externally managed development. But by setting an aggressive timeline, Burkina Faso is saying sovereignty cannot be postponed. The message is clear. Hunger will not wait, dependency will not wait, and dignity will not wait. If sovereignty is real, it must be demonstrated now in tangible form. And consider the ripple effects. Once completed, the canal is expected to irrigate vast tracts of farmland, potentially producing more than 50,000 tons of food annually. That is not just a statistic. It is a shield against dependency. Each ton of grain harvested locally is one less ton imported, one less negotiation with foreign suppliers, one less opportunity for external powers to leverage food as a tool of control. This is why water is suddenly at the center of Burkina Faso's fight for independence. Because controlling water means controlling food, and controlling food means controlling the future. There is also a psychological dimension to this project that must not be overlooked. For a people long told that development requires external approval, to witness a national project of such magnitude carried out entirely by local capacity is transformative. It changes how people see themselves, how they view their potential, and how they define their place in the world. It instills pride, resilience, and a sense of agency. These are not abstract ideas, they are forces that shape societies and define generations. In this sense, the canal becomes more than infrastructure. It becomes a symbol of defiance against narratives of dependence, a symbol of hope that Africa can stand on its own, a symbol of warning to those who have profited from Africa's vulnerability, and most importantly, a symbol of possibility to other African nations that watch and wonder, if Burkina Faso can do this, why not us? The deeper we look at this canal, the clearer it becomes that its significance reaches far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. A trench carved into the earth, lined with concrete, flowing with diverted water. It is infrastructure on the surface, but in the eyes of the world, it is something far more political. It is a rejection, not in words but in action, of an entire development model that has dominated Africa for half a century. And when you reject such a model, you do not do so quietly. You do so under the gaze of powerful eyes that are watching closely, and in many cases, uneasily. Let us consider why. For decades, institutions like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, USAID, and the European Union have presented themselves as the engines of progress in Africa. Their money funded dams, roads, schools, and hospitals. But that money was never free. It was tied to loans with interest, contracts with conditions, and oversight that often looked more like control than support. Even when results were delivered, the legacy of these projects was mixed at best. Debts that burdened national budgets, dependency that stifled innovation, and a constant reminder that Africa's progress was supposedly impossible without external benevolence. Now imagine what it means for a small West African nation to break this cycle. No foreign loans, no external consultants, no international tendering, just national will, local engineers, and local labor. It is more than unusual. it is threatening. Because if one country proves that it can build large-scale infrastructure outside the traditional aid and loan pipeline, then the credibility of that system itself begins to collapse. This is why the world is paying attention. Reports of the project have begun to circulate, and the reactions are telling. In Western capitals, analysts describe it as unsustainable, too ambitious, poorly planned. Yet beneath those words lies something else. Fear. Fear that this example could spread. Fear that sovereignty could become contagious. Fear that Africa, long held within the orbit of global lenders, might find new pathways, forward pathways that weaken the grip of those who have historically controlled the levers of finance and development. But if Western powers are uneasy, ordinary Africans are inspired. Across the continent, news of the project has sparked discussions not about whether it can succeed, but about what it represents. Young people in Dakar, Lagos, Nairobi, and Johannesburg look at Burkina Faso and see proof that their continent can dream boldly and act independently. They see proof that sovereignty is not a slogan, but a practice, one that requires courage, urgency, and collective effort. For too long, Africans have been told that development requires patience, that change takes generations, that self-reliance is unrealistic. But here is a project that says sovereignty can be built brick by brick, trench by trench, today, not tomorrow. And the symbolism only grows stronger when we consider the scale. The Bama Canal is not a small pilot program or symbolic gesture. It is the longest irrigation canal in Africa. That alone carries weight. It says, we are not experimenting, we are leading. We are not testing an idea, we are setting a precedent. To declare such ambition without foreign oversight is to challenge the hierarchy of global development itself. The canal also forces us to confront a simple but powerful truth. Control of water is control of life. In the Sahel, water determines whether crops survive, whether livestock thrive, whether families eat. To external powers, water projects are development. To the people who live there, they are survival. And when survival itself is wrested back from foreign control, it is more than independence, it is liberation. This is why the project resonates so deeply with the African diaspora. In communities across Europe and America, Africans see in this canal a reflection of their own struggles. The desire for dignity, the fight against dependency, the hunger for self-determination. But the defiance goes further. This is not simply about building with local resources. It is about rejecting the Western narrative that Africa cannot build without the West. This narrative has been deeply embedded, repeated in textbooks, reinforced in media, and echoed in international forums. By defying it in such a visible way, Burkina Faso exposes its fragility. If one nation can stand up and declare, we will build for ourselves, then others can too. And once the idea of dependency is broken in imagination, it becomes impossible to fully restore. The climax of the story is not just a canal itself, but the message it sends. Africa is no longer waiting. Africa is no longer negotiating its sovereignty. Africa is no longer accepting the idea that dignity must be borrowed. Instead, Africa is proving that independence is not gifted, it is built through labor, sacrifice, and determination, even in the face of doubt and external pressure. Of course, challenges remain. Critics point to technical risks, the quality of construction, the sustainability of water supply, the complexity of managing large-scale irrigation. These are real questions. But what matters most is not whether every detail unfolds perfectly. It is the courage to begin, to attempt to claim ownership of destiny. Because history shows that every great transformation begins not with perfection, but with defiance. When nations first industrialized, when great railways were built, when dams reshaped rivers, none of these projects were flawless. What made them transformative was not their technical perfection, but their audacity. And audacity is precisely what this canal represents. Audacity to build without permission. Audacity to reject dependency. Audacity to say that sovereignty is not negotiable. This is why the project resonates so deeply at this moment in history. Because it challenges not just economic structures, but psychological ones. For too long, Africans have been conditioned to believe that progress must be supervised, that their destiny must be validated externally. By rejecting that belief, Burkina Faso is sparking something more powerful than concrete walls and flowing water. It is sparking a revolution of the mind. This, then, is the climax. A canal that is more than a canal, a project that is more than infrastructure, a defiance that is more than politics. It is, at its core, a new declaration of independence not written on paper, but dug into the soil, flowing with water, sustained by the will of the people who refuse to wait any longer. And as the first waters begin to flow through the trenches, the world will witness not only the irrigation of fields, but the irrigation of hope. Hope that Africa can choose its own path. Hope that sovereignty can be lived, not just spoken. Hope that the chains of dependency, however long they've endured, can be broken with enough determination, unity, and courage. As the dust settles around the Canal project, what remains clear is that this moment cannot be reduced to concrete channels and flowing water. It is about something larger, more enduring, and more difficult to measure. It is about sovereignty lived in practice, not just spoken in speeches. It is about a people proving to themselves and to the world that dignity cannot be loaned, leased, or imported. It must be built, owned, and defended. When the first water flows through the Bama Canal, the world will see fields turning green where once the earth was dry. They will see maize, sorghum, and rice growing in abundance. They will see families whose incomes rise because harvests no longer fail. They will see children going to school with full stomachs. And while they may see only agriculture, those close to the soil will understand that what is truly flowing through that canal is freedom. Because when a nation can feed itself, it is free from the bargaining table of those who once used hunger as leverage. This is why water has become the center of the struggle. Guns may defend borders, but food defends sovereignty. Armies can repel invaders, but only food security can protect independence from within. Without food, all other victories collapse. And this is a lesson that Burkina Faso has embraced. The war for freedom is not fought only on the battlefield, it is fought in the farms, in the irrigation channels, in the seeds planted by the hands of ordinary people. Consider how different this model is from the one so often imposed by external powers. In the traditional aid model, Africa was told to wait. Wait for loans. Wait for approval. Wait for experts. Wait for consultants. Progress was something delayed, supervised, and rationed out like charity. But in this project, there is no waiting. There's urgency. There's ownership. There's pride. It is not a project imposed from outside. It is born from within. And this sense of urgency carries a powerful message to the world. Sovereignty cannot wait. For decades, Africa has been told that development is a slow, gradual process. That patience is necessary. That sacrifice must continue until the time is right. But who decides when the time is right? Who benefits from delay? It is not the farmers waiting for rain. It is not the families struggling with hunger. The beneficiaries of delay are those who profit from dependency, who gain from Africa's weakness. This canal rejects that model entirely. It says, sovereignty delayed is sovereignty denied. The ripple effects are already visible. Leaders across Africa are watching closely, some with admiration, others with apprehension. For nations that have long relied on external donors, this project raises uncomfortable questions. If Burkina Faso can attempt such an ambitious project on its own, why can't others? Why should African nations continue to wait for permission when sovereignty is theirs by right? These questions unsettle the comfortable arrangements that have existed for decades, arrangements that kept Africa tied to foreign capitals. But beyond politics, this project speaks to the hearts of ordinary people. Thousands of local workers have been employed. Thousands of families now rely on income from construction, food, and support services linked to the canal. For them, this is not theory, it is bread on the table. It is dignity in their work. It is proof that they are building something lasting. This is how nationalism becomes more than rhetoric. It becomes real when people can point to a canal, a bridge, a school, a farm, and say, we built this with our own hands for ourselves without anyone's permission. And so the canal becomes more than a project. It becomes a story told in villages, towns, and cities across Burkina Faso about how the nation refused to wait, refused to beg, refused to be defined by others. It becomes a story that parents tell their children, that when the world doubted, we built, that when the powerful said it was impossible, we made it possible, that when dependency seemed permanent, We chose dignity. Stories like these matter because they shape imagination, and imagination shapes the future. Of course, the road ahead will not be easy. Challenges are certain technical, financial, environmental. There will be attempts to discredit the project, to highlight every flaw, to magnify every setback. Critics will point to cracks in the canal walls, delays in construction, or shortfalls in harvests. They will say, "See, Africa cannot do alone." But the truth is that every great achievement faces resistance. Every great project is met with doubt. Success is not the absence of challenges. It is a determination to overcome them. And this is where the true strength of Burkina Faso will be tested. Will the nation continue to build, to learn, to correct mistakes, and to persevere? If it does, the project will endure not just as a canal, but as a symbol of resilience. Because what matters most is not perfection, it is persistence. Nations are not built by flawless projects, but by the courage to keep building in the face of doubt. This courage is what gives the project its power beyond Burkina Faso's borders. Already, conversations are shifting in Africa's youth movements, in academic circles, in political debates. Young Africans are asking, what if our sovereignty is not something we must negotiate, but something we can simply take? What if development is not something granted, but something built with our own resources, on our own terms? What if the true power of Africa lies not in its ability to attract foreign aid, but in its ability to reject it? The Canal makes these questions real. It transforms them from theory into practice. It provides a living example that can be studied, debated, and replicated. And that is why it is so significant not only for Burkina Faso, but for Africa as a whole. As this chapter closes, what remains is a call, not only to Burkina Faso, but to all nations seeking dignity. Sovereignty cannot be given, it must be taken. Independence is not a gift, it is a responsibility. Freedom is not words, it is action. Burkina Faso has chosen action, and in doing so, it has lit a fire that will not easily be extinguished. So as we reflect on this defiant project, we must ask ourselves, what is the true cost of dependency? What is the price of waiting? And what is the value of taking destiny into your own hands? For Burkina Faso, the answer has been made clear. The cost of dependency is dignity. The price of waiting is hunger. And the value of sovereignty is beyond measure. The canal, therefore, is not just about water. It is about life. It is about dignity. It is about a nation saying to the world, we are not weak. We are not helpless. We are not dependent. We are capable, determined, and sovereign. And in a time when so many question Africa's place in the world, this is a message that cannot be ignored. To all who are listening, let this be your reminder. History does not wait. It rewards those who act, those who dare, those who refuse to bow. Burkina Faso has chosen to act. It has chosen to dare. It has chosen to stand. And in doing so, it has challenged not only the old order, but the imagination of what Africa can be. Now the question is, who will follow? So I leave you with this. If you believe in sovereignty, in dignity, in the right of nations to stand tall without asking permission, then share the story. Share it with your friends, your family, your community. Because sovereignty grows stronger when it is known, when it is spoken, when it is celebrated. And if you want to see more stories like this, stories of courage, defiance, and independence, then subscribe, watch, and join this community. Together, we can amplify the voices that are building a new Africa, one project at a time. Because in the end, sovereignty is not an idea. It is water flowing through fields, food on the table, and pride in the hearts of a people who refuse to wait any longer.